This overpowered move was played yesterday by Cadillac Marlington, the world's #1 chess player, and I received many messages after the video saying what is going on. Chess is dead. How can you combat this opening? Well, fear not, because Magnus Carlsen in the same tournament fought back against it with this pawn to f5. Yes, the Stockness monster does not approve of lifting the king's kilt so early, but bear with me. I think we've found an antidote to the potent plough weapon that white has. Magnus is going to show us the way here. His opponent with the white pieces is Klementy Sychev, very strong blitz player. You can see by his rating. Let's check this one out. d4 on the board. This is titillating Tuesday, by the way, September. Early tournament, played the 3rd of September. We now see knight f6 from Magnus. This one also develops into the game, and e6. What else? And now we get the real Vamos attack, h5. What a move. Going for Magnus's jugular. He builds the banana hammock. h6 comes in response here, and Magnus forced to play this double g6, b6 setup. Look at the undulating pawn formation. Beautiful. Bishop g5 targets the dark squares. Bishop b7, brie and cheddars onto the long diagonal. e3, bishop e7, knight bd2, and now a move that Stocktopus does not approve of, knight e4. Is it premature? Well, apparently if you go bishop f4. Who knows, right? We see these ones come off. Human chess, and Magnus doing fine after bishop d3 and d6. The classical Dutch defense pawn formation. He's got nice central control. We see c3 setting up one of our favorite pawn formations, the party hat, and now we see knight d7. Queen e2 looks to sit on the head of that pawn and bishop like a sumo wrestler. So Magnus expands, takes extra control of the square, and now what do we see? Do we get a castle's kingside? No. Andrea rocks on with the beats as castle's queenside is played. We absolutely love it. Come on, Magnus, give us a castle's kingside. You know we want to see that. Rook f8. What is that? King b1. Always play it. And Magnus castle's queenside. The same side of the board. That's a pathetic move, right? It's like sitting on the toilet when you've got the option to stand. We now see bishop a6 going for the exchange of that defensive piece. Magnus goes knight d to f6, and we see bishop takes on b7. Klementy kind of shoots that check at Magnus. Many of the top professionals are doing that these days. The king now recaptures, and anyone for a knight maneuver. Love a nerdy chess notation joke. What does Magnus do in response? He expands, air punches to get that e5 in. The dream of any Dutch defense player. Can you name me anything better than achieving e5 in the Dutch defense?
Mushrooms.
We now see knight c2. These knights hop in, e takes on d4 played, pawn recaptures, and how about this? After rook fe8, we see rook he1 and it completes a rook cube. Board starts shaking, Magnus's hair expanding, Kramnik looking on in awe, even Garry Kasparov can hardly contain himself. What an overpowered combination of rooks. Now we see knight takes on d2, Magnus can hardly stand it, this rook recaptures, cube is broken, order restored. You can now hop with the knight. Top move here of Stockplankton, but Magnus goes queen f8, going after the pawn, and this is where white needs to take the bull by the horns, expand with d5, but rook c1 played. Knight e4 now comes, the rook drops back, Magnus takes, f3, good move, drive back the pony, d5 now has to be played. Really important to free up this square for the knight, then you generate the attack around this pawn, spearheading things, but not played. Queen b5, also a really natural move, but it now allows Magnus to get this one in. The absolutely stunning pawn to c ships, one of our favourite moves here on Epic Cheese. Queen c4 drops back, Magnus looks to re-enter the game with his queen, snaking away like a Nokia 3310, and now d5 on the board. Great move, but not so good now because Magnus has got a strong response. He shouldn't capture, by the way, or knight d4 comes. Huge pressure on c6, and if you try and defend, you still crash through. You you know, there's problems here. There's problems with the knight not actually being able to be captured. It's a big attack for white here. Anyway, we didn't see that. Magnus goes c5, takes control of d4. Good move, keeps the king closed. Now we see the rook lift into the game. What a power play. And after queen d7, covering the light squares, a4 is now best. Planning knight a3 to b5, but not played. The rook slides to d3, given the miss, and this is where the top super GMs, they know when to break the rules. Magnus starts pushing the pawns in front of his king, not usually done. The rook moves, and whether it had come here or not, b5 is the follow-up move. This is the beautiful expansion. It knocks back this queen. Now you'd love to go say king b6, cover the entry square, but the knight on f6 is hanging. So that's why rook e5 looks precarious because of this move which was played. Not actually best. Better was like doubling the rooks, let's say. But this was done. It allows Magnus to now hop with the knight. He also could actually take here, because if queen takes, rook takes here. If rook takes, knight recaptures. But he goes for this variation, hits the lady, does a poker face. Always look everywhere but in your opponent's eyes if you ever attack their queen over the board. Far more likely to Botez gambit it. Now we see queen a5, invading of course. Magnus brings the rook back, saves it. I mean, why is that given the miss? Okay, rook a8 preferred to give two rooks for the queen, but fine, this is played. Now we see knight a3 going after that tender pawn here. Now Magnus attacks the queen. Yes, he's dropping a pawn, but he's absolutely buzzing. His fans are bleating because the queens leave the board. He's the endgame goat, loves it. We now see rook e7. This one here, of course, covers the backwards pawn. You're okay for now. This one hops back to a3. Heading for c4, or is it? We see king c7, check, a little bit of tickle. This one drops back. Now knight f6. The horsey's jumping, dancing. I've got a favourite clip around that, but we'll save it for another day. Knight c4 now played, and king c7. Magnus nudging around, so is his opponent. We see rook b8 on the board, and after rook cd1, e4 attacking the knight. Now the pawn structure changes to defend the noble steed. Magnus could capture, but holds off on it. White can never actually take. The knight drops. So instead he goes knight g4, attacking the backwards tender point. Rook e1 prophylactically covers, and these ones double. Tolkien would be proud of those two towers stacked. Rook d2, or king d2 rather, covering the pawn some more. Now Magnus takes. Pawn recaptures. Switcheroos back because the king gave some ground. He wants to invade. Rook c3 anticipates. You don't want to get skewered, kebabbed, lose the pawn. Magnus now drops back. Beautiful horseplay. Now knight d2. I mean, what a tour de horse that this one's getting through here. Rook b4 comes over this way, and now rook c1. Lots of shuffling. We're not pausing for every miss. We'd be here all day, right? We're sticking with this. It's human chess. Magnus gets the invasion going, and he's up on the clock. This is the big thing in blitz chess. Knight c4 played, so natural. Rook g1 now best to pressure the pawn. Not found. Magnus drops. You can now go rook c1. It forces an exchange of these rooks, or else you keep yo-yoing, making a draw. That's why rook g1 was better. Upon rook c1, you can take a pawn, but not played. King c3, given the miss. Excuse me. The knight now hops forward with check, because obviously, bro, that's what you do in blitz chess here. We see rook a8 hitting that open file, but b4 Magnus can invade. We see the juicer pushed on the queen side, trying to rip open the king. It's really good play, low on time from Klementy. Now we see rook a1, and it sets a devilish trap. If captures, can you find the mate in one if I give you 10 million seconds? Very well done if you saw the move. Rook eb1, check and mate. The knight covers the escape square. This rook an awkward lapel on the king's shoulder. So of course takes wasn't played. We see this move of knight a3 covering the square. Rook ad1 from Magnus goes for an exchange. That's what occurs. Now white can crash through here. In just a moment we see it, and we don't see king takes knight. Then the pawn is running. Red carpet rolled out. You can't do that. that. So instead we see pawn recaptures. The knight saves itself. These are exchanged. Rook takes back, or king rather, and now Magnus does pick up a pawn. Finally, does it with a nom 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 nom. Only a quick one, he's low on time, goes a pawn up, but after king c4, white should be holding an equilibrium with a very active king, and the rook can join the party, at least according to Stock Mollusk, right? But not played. The check given, king c6, the rook invades, both players now missing moves, right? We're not going to get too hung up on perfect chess. They're playing on seconds. They get a second back per move. This one checks here. Magnus steps back, king c4, and now after rook a4 check, we've absolutely reached the crunch moment. Because what should white do? King d3. Has to be played, cover this square. Excuse me. But what we see in the game here is king c3, a micro inaccuracy here. Stockfish poops its pants. We can see over on the left, but flap fully open because Magnus can land rook e4 and it forces a loss on time, but it would have been resignation otherwise. You can't move the rook away, of course, or you lose it, so takes natural, but this is simply a lost endgame. Here's a sample line. You can try and get the f-pawn running, but the king comes back round, corrals that pawn. Yes, you lose this one, but the h-pawn's running. That's going to decide the game. This the final position here. Magnus gets the job done. That's how you fight against the overpowered plough, and this was the results of the tournament. Hope you enjoyed this one. Smash subscribe. We've got epic chess to come this week, Speed Chess Championship semis, and check out the video on screen for another epic game of chess. Cheers.